Sure.
Please.
Sure. I feel like I'm like right on top of it, but I...
No, you're good. You're good. Alright, so then you just look at me.
Okay.
Don't look at the camera. Just make sure the camera isn't here.
Sure. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I should probably mute my phone, huh?
Yes, like just silent your phone, please.
Alarms on me. Oh, we look from here. Good.
Yeah, looks good. Do you want to just...
Cool.
Yeah.
Works for me, yeah. Don't even need a makeup person or something.
No, you're fine. Okay, so like Kevin, can you just like please state like your full name for me and your position?
Sure. I'm Kevin Michael Doherty, and I'm right now I'm currently sitting alderman for Ward 4 on the Olean Common Council. And I'm in the middle of my second term, if that matters to you.
Okay, Kevin. So I've learned that you were the one that was pretty much like on top of this rental property inspection bill, which turned into law.
Right. So
like, tell me more about that. Like, what was the purpose of passing that?
So one of the major purposes is the fact that New York State has accepted the International Code Council's like book of safety, building code, things like that. There's the International Fire Code, all this other stuff. New York State adopted that. It mandates smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors and things like that for public safety. But we had nothing.
Wait, I'm so sorry. Can let's do this again, but this way.
Sure.
Yeah. So apologize. All right.
Sure.
So continue. Say.
Okay. So New York State has adopted all of these. It has adopted the International Building Code and the International Fire Code, and there's nothing at a local level, like we enforce it, but there's no way for a code enforcement official to get their foot in the door into somebody's house to do an inspection on a rental property, which essentially is a property that is like being brought to the market. Like right now we're at Quinn's Wake. This is a coffee house that has to have the health inspector come through in order to, because I'm providing this establishment to the public, so the public can come and go. Now you don't have, in essence, the foot traffic of the public coming and going with, with a rental property. You're renting the apartment for yourself, but at the same time, you're not the owner of the building. And 6 months from now, it could be somebody else. So essentially, it is a form of a public space in that you're putting it on the public market for rent. And so in order for it to meet those same safety requirements that everybody should have that's already in the law, we needed to get a guy inside just to verify that people are putting smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. There's been, 3 fatalities in the last 2 years from houses burning down, and these people could have been alarmed by, the beeping of a smoke detector and said, oh my God, there's a fire, let's get out of the house. But they didn't hear it, they die in their sleep, and they're being cooked alive. And that's not anything that I want to happen to my children or a tenant of mine. Not that every one of my rentals has a smoke detector in it, because I know the rule, and I know where they're supposed to go, and I know that you're supposed to have 12 inches down from the ceiling, but not everybody does. And so by paying for an inspection and having some guy come into your house to tell you, you need a smoke detector here, right here, you probably shouldn't have it near that doorway, you shouldn't have it near a window, you need to have it right here on this wall, and you need to have one in every bedroom. To have somebody come to your house and tell you that, now the next time you do an inspection, you already know, I forgot. That outlet died, and I didn't replace it with a ground fault interrupter, which is a GFI outlet. Most people know they get the little push reset buttons. A lot of people will do the work on their own rentals themselves, and that one was big and clumsy, and it kept breaking, and maybe I wasn't installing it right, so I just put a regular outlet in. Well, the code official is going to come through and say, hey, because you're within so many feet of a water source, you really have to have that there. It's a safety issue. And so you don't want somebody getting electrocuted because they're, washing a blender, and maybe they, you'd be surprised what people do. They're washing their blender, but they forgot to unplug it from the wall. Well, that ground fault interrupter is going to, it's going to stop at milliamp draw, and it's going to protect that person's life in case that thing tries to ground them out and stop their heart. So those are the little things that save lives. Most importantly, though, is carbon monoxide. That's another one. It's required. Nobody has it. A lot of people don't have it. They're expensive. They're like $50 a unit. And why would you want to put one in? Well, the reason you want to put one in is so you don't have you don't wake up one morning and, oh man, I'm not getting my rent from these people. Why are they not picking up their phone? And oh, they died in their house in the middle of the night because the heat exchanger in their furnace cracked and carbon dioxide filled their basement, rose up, went to the sleeping quarters, and it's silent, you can't smell it. Within 20 minutes at 100 parts per million, you're dead. So it's one of those things, I've got 6 of them in my house. I think I'm required to have 2. I have 6, because I don't want to die in my sleep. I don't want my kids to die in their sleep. And I don't want people that are being exposed to, not even bad landlords, we're talking about just unadvised landlords, because anybody can buy property. This is America. Anybody can buy property. It doesn't mean that you know all the rules and safety measures that you should take to better protect your tenants, and this law kind of goes into to help that. Also, it forces people to, remember that sure, this is a great business investment, you've got to make money, but at the same time, it's all about what you're bringing to the market, and this should help curb against blight. Hey, your house is peeling paint, little kids are going to walk by and eat paint chips, not good. It's going to go on the ground, it's going to saturate into the groundwater. There's a lot of different things that happen with that. If somebody went through and scraped and painted their house and made it look nice, you're curbing against blight as well as, stopping the safety issue.
So, what were or are the blighted conditions in the households?
I mean, a lot of, I've been, being in the construction industry,
Yeah.
I've been in a lot of these houses, and you'd be surprised how many houses have the blighted condition of them is peeling paint on the walls, holes punched in walls, things like that, let alone from like the actual, a furnace not properly vented into a chimney. You know what I mean? Carbon monoxide issues. Besides those things, the blighted aspect, the things that people don't want to see, is inside the home as well as outside the home.
The exterior part. So, talk about that too. Okay,
sure. Yeah, the exterior part of the house. So,
Yeah.
I got into a little bit there. Like, you've got, any house prior to, was it 1972 or 1979? They started removing lead from paint. And at that point, I don't know too many houses that are in Olean. There's not a lot. Out of 6,000 housing stock, roughly, we've got maybe 20 of them are post 1972. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of houses. A lot of these houses were built, early 1900s. 1930 is, probably a good guesstimate. Some of my rentals built in 1890, other ones built in 1910, right around there, right around the turn. So so every one of those was more than likely painted with asbestos tiles, which are non-friable, so they're, they're safe. You can go over, you can, you can touch them, you're not going to get sick. But, they should have a fresh coat of paint on them, And that old lead paint is kind of peeling off of them. And even if the top coat was latex, nobody ever scrapes right down to the bare bone of their house and, re-sands everything down and says, we're going to start from scratch here. No, they just scrape what's loose and paint over it. So next time it peels, you still got those original layers of lead paint peeling off and things like that. So and then you drive by a house that's got peeling paint on it. It's not just the fact that it's a safety issue; it looks deplorable. And that's just it forces somebody to say, "Hey, I'm offering this product on the market." You don't go down to a local store and say, "Oh, I really like that item." And the box is all beat up, and there's scratches on the item within the box, and you know what I mean. You don't do that because you're bringing something to market and you want it to sell. You're gonna raise the quality of everybody's value in the housing stock by forcing everybody to be on the same page and say, hey, listen, we're not asking you to vinyl side your house. You know what I mean? That costs some money. Long term, it's more cost beneficial, but for the here and now, a lot of people don't have money to paint, to side their house. But a coat of paint. Borrow a couple buddies on the weekend. Get a little old lady lives across the street from my house. In a couple weeks last summer we took and we painted her house. So it's, it's neighbors helping neighbors, grandkids, whoever it is. Painting a house isn't that hard. It's just, a lot of people neglect it. And they're like, my property taxes are going to go up, which is not the case.
Speaking of which, I've learned that some landlords think it's because very much wanting to take more money out of their pocket
right.
in taxes. They think that this law is meant for that too.
It's the cost of doing business. So every year I pay $150 to have the health inspector come in here one time a year. Pay $150. there's no way that that guy's, half an hour visit here is worth $150 for that half an hour, right? Like that's $300 an hour. No, because it's the cost of doing business. They've got to issue me the permit. They've got to keep a staff of people to help maintain the entire project. Like, I mean, a code enforcement official can come through and inspect one of these places. I believe the bill is $60. It's $60, and you get the guy here, but now he's got to. I mean, it helps keep that person to inspect all these properties all year round, keep up on the paperwork when he's not at your house. He's got to be there to file the complaints and do that, and go to court against the people that are insisting that refuse to fight the $60 complaint, or refuse to want to rent it out regardless of what the law says. You know what I mean? It's just, it's one of those. It's the cost of doing business. I mean, if it's not like it's your personal home, right? Like, oh great, another bill that I have to come home to. I work my job that has nothing to do with my house, and I have to come home to it. No, this is a product that they're putting on the market. I mean, oh, the box costs money? Like, yeah, the box costs money. You put it in the box, you put it on the shelf, you've got to have the label on there, you got to tell people what you're selling. I mean, that's all part of that cost. This is just the boxing fee. You know what I mean? That's the, so, and the other,
another thing, let's go back with the whole safety issue. Can you just list the things that the inspectors would inspect in the household?
Yeah, sure. I mean, and they're pretty boilerplate. I mean, they're not going to go through. They're not going to sit there and say, well, I think that this foundation's cracked, and it says, well, it's visible stuff, right? So they're going to go through, and I haven't seen Brian, one of the code guys out in the field in a while, but usually with most inspections, they have a little device they plug into GFIs to make sure that they're wired correctly, they have proper polarity. So your hot's on the hot side, your neutral's on the neutral side. You know what I mean? To make sure they didn't wire them backwards behind the outlet, and that they're grounded. And then they push the button, and it tests the GFI. It pretty much just tests it at milliamps, make sure it's working properly. And then they reset the button, make sure it comes back on and power's there and all this other stuff. So they're testing for that. They're going to be testing for, they usually test for, more visual inspection, like, okay, you've got a smoke detector here. You need a smoke detector on each floor. And then...
In each floor, you said?
I believe there's one on each floor, as well as one in each bedroom. And then you have to have a carbon monoxide detector on each floor, and they should be outside of the bedrooms. So this way, before it creeps into a bedroom, it's getting hit in the outside hallway on the top of the stairwell, or what have you. If your furnace is in the basement, usually they require that you have one there, because if your furnace is in the basement and it cracks, you know what I mean, the heat exchanger cracks. So now that gas isn't going up the chimney, it's also going in with the hot air you're pushing around the entire house. So they want to catch it in case maybe you have a boiler system. Well, boilers don't push hot air, so it's not going to push to the rest of the house, it's actually going to build up. So at least it's going off in the basement. So you know well in advance that you have an issue, that, oh man, we have to turn the heater off, fix this problem, call the landlord, whatever it is, and that's, so they're looking for that. I'm trying to think, they look for a few things. I mean, they're going to look for major defects in like a foundation. They're going to walk around the outside of the house and say, hey, your roof is throwing shingles off of it. I don't see any signs of leakage, but I mean, man, this thing really, it's outlived its useful life. You need to consider replacing this. There's a back wall of your building caved in, and you've got it held up with support posts. Like, you've got to fix this foundation issue. It's structurally, it's structurally temporary because you've got support. You know what I mean? It's one of those, you can't rent a house without a foundation.
Yeah.
So it's one of those. They're looking for the major stuff. You've got peeling.
As well as paint.
They're looking for peeling paint. I mean, obviously there is some leeway. Because you're not going to say, hey, you can't rent this apartment in January because there's peeling paint on the outside of the house. They're going to give you an order to remedy to fix it, when the weather is, and that's, everybody looks at them like they're, these evil people that are just going to come and stop your business. No, they're, hey, your paint is peeling, and comes spring, I want to see that you're painting the side of this house. Because it's peeling and it's going into the yard, and you want to move this family in with kids, and and it's one of the, it just comes down to like the fact that they're not out there to get you, they're out there to help you and work with you, because the code enforcement official's job is compliance. Their job is not revenue generating. They're not trying to just fine everybody. They want compliance. They want, this is the law, and we want you to comply with it. And sometimes, in certain situations, there's room for like negotiation and, you know what I mean, like to come to a happy medium and understanding on, you know, what needs to be done. You know, but like the peeling paint issue, scrape it and paint it in the spring. That's all they're looking for, you know, because you obviously can't do it now. If it's snowing outside, it's very difficult to convince contractors to go do your roof. There are contractors who do your roof in the winter, it's not unheard of, but nobody wants to work in the cold. Roofs are just as slick in the cold as they are in rainy weather, you know, but it's, a lot of times they'll give you leeway on stuff like that, but it all depends on the situation, you know what I mean? Hey, this roof looks like you're going to need to replace it, but it's good right now. Proceed to rent the place. Just be mindful you should be replacing this, because by the time I come out here next to inspect after this tenant moves out, that roof probably is going to be leaking. You know, and they're going to give you, they're also going to give you insight as well as, you know, things that, you know, because a lot of people out there don't know. There are career landlords, and they know exactly what they have to do, or they know half of what they have to do. They do a lot of the work themselves. And then there's other people out there that own one rental property, and their sister-in-law lives in it, and like, oh man, every time the furnace breaks, I got to call a local plumber, and that costs me $350, and you know, and it's one of those things. And so they look at it like, oh my God, this is a terrible thing, but it's, you know, hey, your sister's going to get leaked on, and it's going to cause other damage. You're going to have ceiling, you're going to have mold issues, you're going to have all this other stuff. At least if they're there, they can point out things that maybe, you know, Joe homeowner doesn't know. So.
Anything else?
No. Do you have any other questions for me?
No, that's pretty much it. Like, I've got the feeling it's pretty much like for the people in the community.
That's what it is. I mean, I experienced this in other states and municipalities when I was doing work for, you know, hey, we need you to get this apartment up and ready to rent. So I'll go through and I'll check everything. Hey, there's no leaky pipes. Hey, the electricity's here. There's a GFI there. There's smoke detectors in the bedrooms. A fresh coat of paint. Everything looks nice. There's a handrail out front. You know what I mean? After, I believe it's 3 steps, you have to have a handrail. That's tripping, you know what I mean? Sidewalks can't be heaved more than 1 inch because that's a tripping hazard. There's just a lot of different things that they're going to be looking for. And I mean, I went through and I'm like, you know what? It's nice to have this checklist and knowing that like this product that my customer is going to put on the market is quality. I mean, that's what it comes into. You got all these fly-by-night contractors out there, and it kind of puts them accountable too. So if they're working for said landlord, you know, they're not putting shoddy work out there. Yeah, we just threw some tar on the roof. Hopefully that was the leak. You know, sometimes that doesn't fly. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to just make a patch repair, but other times, you know, you have to consider replacement. And they're, you know, the code enforcement officials are there to help people, and this is just another avenue that they can go to help people and also save lives. So.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem.